Extroverted thinking and introverted feeling are the logic functions. So TE and TI look very similar to me, but as you can imagine, they're quite different. One way I like to look at the difference between the two functions is to look at the differences between geeks and nerds. TI is the nerd function, while TE is out at Comic-Con or one of the 3 million bootleg Comic-Cons. TI is home reading Wikipedia, because introverted thinking is, well, introverted. Mind blown. TI deals with thoughts internally. That's to say it thinks a lot, while TE deals with thinking externally. In other words, high TE users think by trying different things, instead of thinking by just staring off into space. Look at it this way. Let's say you have a TI or TE IT guy, which, given the whole nerd versus geek comparison, I think this example's apt. When TE goes to fix the printer, it's going to use trial and error. Try one thing, then another thing, systematically kicking each part of the machine till it works. Or, more likely, get so annoyed that they just throw it out the window. Stupid printers. TI, on the other hand, will just stare at it and think, what is the most optimal way to fix this printer? Introverted thinking doesn't need to try stuff. It has a jumbo internal thought lab in its head that's so big and techy that even Jimmy Neutron is jealous. Extroverted thinking has a just works mindset. If spilling some Mountain Dew on the printer makes the printer print, then by George, CE will have a 6-pack in its toolbox from now on. Details like how Mountain Dew magically fixes the printer aren't important to them. TE doesn't care that if in DC Comic 283, Part 7, that Superman was on a planet with a red sun, but somehow didn't lose his powers. Meanwhile, TI will have made 300 Reddit posts about this blight on the Superman franchise. High TI users don't need to understand everything. Not everything needs to make sense. So as long as it works and you enjoy it, then that's great. TI couldn't disagree more though. Small inconsistencies drive them crazy. Extroverted thinking's ideas are objective and are pretty good at explaining things in common language. Basically, you won't need to take notes and have 300 Wikipedia tabs open just to read a TE Facebook post. High TI users have such a complicated inner world that it's just hard for them to express their ideas. So they don't. If they want to get their ideas out of their head, they're more likely to just write them down in a notebook. Like one of my MBTI Pride Flag notebooks, which you can get on my Teespring, link in the description. TI is pretty respectful of other people's ideas. Their logic is a lot more subjective, and they see things from multiple angles. And because of this, they can respect other people's opinions. They aren't going to tell everyone that they're wrong like TE might. Don't get me wrong, they may still give you their 2 cents, well actually, but at the end of the day, when TI gives advice, it's just a suggestion. However, when extroverted thinking gives advice, that's in order, and you better do it. They're objectively right after all. TI loves the process of setting stuff up and figuring stuff out. It's where they get their energy from. High TI users would make amazing dungeon masters, planning out every possible decision you could make. Meanwhile, extroverted thinking will just be winging it the entire time. TE gets its energy from getting stuff done. Checking something off a checklist is like taking a shot of heroin to them. Meanwhile, checking something off to a high TI user is more like a funeral, and that's why TI rarely does anything. If you're still having a hard time telling these two cognitive functions apart, then I made a video explaining in depth both TI and TE. Watch them here.